Hey everyone, I'm Joseph Ayala, one of your career coaches here at CSUN, and today we're going to talk about management best practices. This is important because as you graduate from CSUN and start your career, you're really going to have a lot of competing priorities. Some of you may start your profession and at the same time be going to graduate school. As you move on, some of you are going to have families and other obligations and responsibilities. And all of that's going to have to take place at the same time of doing the responsibilities of your paid job. So it's important that all of us have some type of best practice for time management in the style that works best for us. And so today we're going to walk through some of those best practices, those tips and tricks around time management. To begin, I always like to say that this is simply my perspective. If someone else was doing this presentation for you, they would have maybe some similar things, some different things. So I always like to start off by saying this is my perspective for you, but it's framed within my experience of trying different time management methods. In my 30 years since I graduated from college and having different jobs, I've tried different ways to manage my time effectively. And I have found what works for me. I'm going to share some of those with you today and give you some options so that you can decide what works best for you, so that you can continue to be successful when it comes to time management. We're going to start off with a quote. We all have time to either spend or waste, and it is our decision what to do with it. But once past, it is gone forever. We use this quote to share with you that it is up to us to choose what we do with our time. It is up to us to choose what we're prioritizing over the other. It's up for us to choose what method are we going to track our to-do lists. Because the more we procrastinate, the more days go by that we don't do what we need to do, we can never get that time back. So the session today is how to reclaim that time and the methods to do that. There's some true benefits of effective time management. We're going to talk about 3 of them today. The first is it can make you more efficient. When you are in your jobs, your manager is going to expect that you're efficient with your time, that you're using your time wisely, that the items that are priority are being handled first, that the ones that are most important to meet the goals of the company are at the top of your mind. So when you have a method to track your time, you will become more efficient, which means that you're going to become more successful. Managers are going to be look at those team members who use their time effectively. And when you use your time effectively, you're going to stand out. When you say that you're going to get something done and you do it by that due date, you're going to be looked upon favorably. When you stick to your word and your commitments, other people will talk about you as someone who can be trusted. That in turn leads you to be more successful in whatever profession you decide to join. And it's also healthy for you. By having effective time management skills, it will lower the stress that you have on your body. So many times people will say, I'm so stressed out, I have so much to do. A lot of times that's because they don't have effective time management skills, that it becomes overwhelming to them. So having an effective time management where you can sit back, get things done, even when you're busy, will also have a healthy effect on your brain, on your own wellness, on your physical body, which is very important for all of us to take care of ourselves. We always recognize that there's some obstacles to effective time management. What are those things that prevent us from being good time managers? The first is disorganization. I don't know where to start. This is where people have so much on their list that it's just so overwhelming to them. And you've heard people say this before, I don't even know where to begin. We can't just start from item number one because that might not be the most important, but at the same time, sometimes we're stuck and we need help trying to figure out where to start. And I'm going to give you some tips to overcome that today. Some people have the inability to say no. You take on too much and everything starts to pile up. You have too many things at once. This might describe you or someone you know, where people say, can you do me a favor? And the person automatically says, yes, whatever you need, without even knowing what the request is. When you're at work and you're in that professional career, and especially starting out, you might feel that if you say no, that it might not look good upon you because you might be saying, no, I don't want to help you. But there's reasons you can say no in a professional environment, and we'll talk about that later today. There might be some interruptions as an obstacle. There are things around to distract you both internally and externally. Maybe you're overwhelmed. That's an internal interruption, or you're tired because you're trying to do too much. External are things in the environment. Maybe you don't have a solitary space, a quiet space for you to get your work done. So there's always external distractions and interruptions, which take away your time and don't allow you to focus, right? So we'll talk about how to overcome that obstacle. Maybe there's prolonged periods of inactivity where some people are procrastinators. There's long periods of doing nothing. A lot of times this is tied to people who have so much to do and don't know where to start, that it's simply better to do nothing. I'm going to show you ways today of when periods of inactivity that you think are just doing nothing time, where those can actually become one of the best times to get work done. And stress and fatigue. You're not taking care of yourself, no or low energy. As you enter the professional workplace, you're going to have to maybe change some of the behaviors that you have in college today. Maybe you're not going to stay up late. You have to change the way that you eat. You might change the way that you sleep, right? As you transition from college to the professional workplace, there is a transition that needs to happen, right? It's sad to say, but no longer are those days going to be where every night it's okay to stay up until midnight. No longer is it going to be where every day maybe it's pizza or fast food, right? All of that's going to start catching up to you, unfortunately. And stress and fatigue, because of you not taking care of yourself, can have a negative effect in your professional workplace environment. And when you have no or low energy, it's human nature that we just don't want to do anything that's on our to-do list. So we want to prevent that from happening. We'll talk about that later today, which is the next slide, right? What can we do? First, recognize that obstacle exists, right? Obstacles exist that prevent us from getting our work done. It's okay to admit that. It happens to all of us. But then it's important to identify them. For each one of us, maybe on that previous slide, which ones described you? Are you someone who procrastinates? Are you someone who just takes on too much because you're afraid to say no? Right? We can see ourselves fit into the category. What is it for you that makes you feel overwhelmed? What is that? And if once you identify that thing or those things, then you can employ strategies to overcome them. And I'm going to talk about those strategies too. So the strategies are, you can prioritize. And what we're going to do is just talk about a list of them. And then in the following slides, kind of take more of a deep dive. But you can prioritize what's important so that that long list you have becomes shorter based upon prioritization. You can do what we call ruthless prioritization, which means, yes, everything on the list has to get done. But what are those things that really need to get done now? Those are the ones I need to focus on. Organize. You need to find a way to organize your to-do list. We're going to talk more about that. The third strategy is you need to learn when to say no. You're going to learn what's considered in your scope and what might best be handled by someone else, which we'll talk about in a second. Remember, we're going to deep dive into each one of these in the following slides. We're just previewing them now. The fourth strategy we'll talk about is use your waiting time. You will learn that if there was a camera watching you throughout your week, how much time you are just sitting around idle, waiting for something to happen, that time can actually become your most productive time that you have of your week. We're going to talk about a strategy of concentrating on the task at hand so that you focus on that one task that you're working on, which allows you to do that job better because you're not thinking or letting your brain think about the next thing you have to do on your list. This is a strategy that can be learned. And consider your personal prime time. What does that mean? We'll talk more about it, but it means what time of the day is your brain turned on the most, ready to work the most, be productive the most. It differs for all of us, and we'll talk more about that. And the last strategy is you have to celebrate success. We don't expect people to work, work, work. That will not work, right? We need time to step back and reward ourselves in whichever way rewarding yourself means so that you can be energized and ready to handle the next task. So let's look at these and in a more detailed approach as we go through these 7 strategies. The first is to prioritize, right? We call it do, delegate, delay, delete. That's the method we want to use. How you prioritize your list. So to start off, let's say you have a long list of to-dos. How do you know which ones to do first? First, look at it and say, which ones do I have to do? Meaning, which ones and my jobs, and the way you want to think about this is, I'm sitting at my desk in my professional organization. What are those things that have to be done now? It could be based upon due date. So those things that are due today, you better get them done. Those things that need to be done tomorrow, you probably need to start working on them. Importance. Look at the list. Which ones are most important? And when you look at your list, you will start to see which ones are important, which ones are urgent, right? Start deciphering and deciding, and that will help you prioritize and do those first. That's the first thing on the screen, do. So do those ones first based upon due date, based upon level of urgency. Delegate. Are there some things on the list that you don't have to take on yourself? Maybe you have a teammate that can help you with something. We don't always have to feel that we need to do it ourselves. And as you become, as you start to get more promotions in your job, so you become a supervisor or a manager, where you have teams that you're leading, this becomes even more important, where you can say to yourself, oh, I don't have to do all of this by myself. Let me look at what's going on with the team members I have, and maybe I can delegate for them to do some of the work. Now, I will let you know that some managers, as you start to become a leader in your companies, you will maybe have a hard time delegating. And the reason I find that people have a hard time delegating is because they feel that the person they're delegating it to may not do as good of a job as they would do it themselves. That's a fear we all have as managers. But that's okay. You have to learn to delegate, because you can always delegate it to someone like one of your team members so that they can create a draft or do a first take of whatever the task is. And then all you're doing is reviewing it and editing it and finalizing whatever that deliverable might be. It saves you a lot of time when all you're doing is editing and proofreading or updating what's already been done than having to start from scratch. Delay. Delay means I should say delay does not mean that you're not going to do what's on your list. It means look at those items and ask yourselves, which ones of these can I delay to a different time when I'm not as busy? If something's not due for 6 months from now, maybe you can wait and start it 3 months from now, right? If something's not due, if you have like a specific online training that you have to complete, and your company gives you 15 days to do it, and when you look at it, it says it's going to take 30 minutes of your time. Maybe that's something you can delay, right? You have 15 days to do it, and it's only a 30-minute class. So look at your list and say to yourself, which ones can I postpone, get done later, delay, and then delete. As you go through your workday, you're going to be jotting things down, and a lot's going to come at you, and you're going to be putting it on your to-do list. It's important at the time. But as days go by and as you look at that list, priorities change. And you may look at the list and say, I don't think that's important anymore. Or, that's not part of my scope anymore. Or, I wrote that down. I thought it was a good idea, but it's really not something that's going to move the company forward. It's not something that my manager's asking me to do. Take it off the list. One less thing that you have to worry about. So when you prioritize, you want to do those things that are most urgent and critical and that are due soonest. Delegate. Look at the list and ask yourself, are there items on this list that I can ask others to do for me? Delay. Don't take it off the list, but do it later. Delete. Just cross things off of the list because they're no longer important. You also then need to organize. Whatever method you choose, make sure you organize your tasks so that you can stay on track. For me, I have 2 notebooks. One is a to-do list for all the things that I have to do for work. One is a to-do list for all of the things that I have to do for home, with my family, personal life, all of those things. It's all written down on 2 different notebooks. And I just go through the list, and every day I say, what out of these 2 lists am I going to accomplish today? And I take a couple of each list, depending on what my work schedule is, and I get those done. I have other colleagues that use some type of an electronic method, maybe a calendar on their phone, or a calendar on their computer where they keep tasks on there with the ability to mark things off when they're done. You need to choose whatever way is necessary to organize your lists. But what's not an option is to not have a list. As you go into the professional workplace, your managers are going to expect you to do what you say you're going to do. And saying, I forgot, is not going to fly. So it's important that you start figuring out a way to track your work, to track your to-do list and mark things off as you get them done, right? So I'm not going to tell you which method to use, but whether it's a notebook, whether it's using your phone and a calendaring system, whether it's using your computer and doing a to-do list on there, whatever it's going to be, make sure you do that. Okay, being able to do what you say you're going to do and get things done is going to be really consequential when it comes to you entering the workforce. People are simply going to expect that you know how to be organized, right? No one's going to teach you how to create a to-do list. No one's going to do that. You're going to graduate from CSUN. get a great job, and people are just going to, you're just going to jump in and start working. And it's up to you to keep track of your own items. So find a way to organize that works for you. We talked about an item being learning when to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. Now, there is a caveat, right? If your manager says you need to do this, which they will say for some things, most likely you don't want to say no, right? If your manager says you need to do this and I need it done by Friday, you get it done, right? So there's not a lot of flexibility there, but there is a lot of flexibility when it comes to other things, right? You can ask yourself, is this my responsibility? So you might be in a meeting and there's a lot of people from different organizations in a typical meeting, and they will be making a list of things that have to be done when the meeting's over. And they might say, let's say your name is John. Hey, John, if you can do that for us, that would be great. If you can own that, that would be wonderful. Now, it's easy to say, okay, because you want to be helpful, you want to look good, you want them to feel like you're contributing. But at the same time, if it's not your responsibility, what we call in your scope of work, it's okay to say, I hear what you're saying. I know we need someone to do that, but that's not in my scope. That's not what my scope is, right? And the other thing you want to say is, if I think to yourself is, if I say yes, does it mean it will delay something else on my list? And what we mean by this is a couple of things. First, if you say yes, you have to think to yourself quickly, what else is on the list that might interfere? Because what you could then have as a response is, I know that this is my responsibility. I would love to help you with this. Is it okay if I complete it out within the next 2 weeks? Right? Because in your mind, you already know what's going on and what those priorities are, that maybe you just need more time to do it. So again, it's okay to say no if it's not within your scope. But if it is in your scope, it's also okay to push back a little bit and to ask for more time if you need it. It's much better upfront to ask for more time than to miss an internal deliverable date. Okay, that's not the type of person you want the company to think of you as. I'm in meetings a lot, and we will be on calls and someone will say, oh, Jan, can you help with this? And if it's not Jan's responsibility, and again, I'm just making up that name, Jan will say, that's just not within my scope. That's not what we handle. It's okay to do that. The other thing is to ask yourself, do I even want to do it? Do I even want to do it? Now, again, there are going to be things that your manager asks you to do and says you need to do it that you don't want to do, but you simply have to do it, right? So I'm not saying that. But there's also some optional things that are going to come across your desk when you're working that you have an option to say yes or no. Someone might come to you and say, hey, we're going to start planning for the annual sales meeting or the yearly company meeting. Do you want to be on the committee? It's an optional thing, but do you want to be on the committee? We're checking to see who wants to be on there. And you might think it would be a lot of fun to do. You might say, I love planning parties. This is going to be great. I would love to do it. Or I like planning meetings and the logistics of it. And then you have to think to yourself, but do I really want to do it? And there's going to be other things that are competing outside your workplace, right? If you start to have a family, you might be asked to be the team mom. And you're thinking, you know what? It'd be great to be a team mom for my kids' soccer. I love putting that stuff together. I love talking with the other parents. But I really just don't want to do it because I know I just don't have the time. Say no, right? It's okay to do that. An example for me is that my daughter is 10 years old and I'm pretty involved. I help at school events when I have the time to do so. So people know me there. One of the parents came up to me and said, "Hey, Joseph, we're wondering if you would join the board of the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, and if you would be the vice president of membership." And I said to myself, it's flattered to be asked, but do I even want to do it and have to go put another meeting on my calendar and be responsible for other events that are happening there and reaching out to parents and waiting for them to respond back? I don't want to do that. So I told them no. It's okay to say no sometimes. And then always in any of these scenarios, see if you can suggest someone else from a work perspective. You're in that meeting. Someone says, "Hey, we need this something created," and they're assigning things out, and they say, "Joseph, can you get that done for us?" It's okay for me. It's okay for me to say, that's out of my scope. My team doesn't handle that the deliverable. However, have you talked to, yeah, Jim in marketing, because I think they handle that piece of the process, right? You can do that. Or when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, would you like to be part of the planning committee for the annual sales meeting?" You know, I would love to do it, but I just don't have the time right now. But Robert, he's on the account team. He's really good at planning parties. He really enjoys it. I don't know if he'll do it, but it'd be a great, maybe reach out to him and see what he says. It's always nice if you suggest other people instead of just saying no, or even suggesting another team that handles that responsibility so other people can then be asked. So it's okay to learn to say no. You don't have to accept everything that comes to across your desk, except for, of course, those things that you're mandated or required to do because it's part of your job. Use your waiting time wisely. I'm pretty good about this. I've learned to be pretty good. But think about public transportation. As you join the workforce, are you going to take the train to work? Are you going to take the bus to work? If you are, you ask yourself, is there anything on my to-do list that I can do while I'm on public transportation? Most all of them have Wi-Fi now. A lot of the work can be done on your phone. Maybe there's a document that you need to read in preparation for a meeting that you're going to be in. That's something you can easily do on public transportation. Instead of just sitting there and looking out the window, you can use your time wisely on public transportation or at the doctor's office. For me, I sometimes have to take my mom to the doctor, which means I'm sitting in the waiting room for 30 to 45 minutes at a time. I always look at my list and say, what can I take with me to do in the waiting room? It could be that I'm going to clean up my email. That's something that's on my to-do list. I can knock it off. It could be that I need to make a couple of phone calls. I can do that, knock it off my to-do list. It could be that I need to review a document because I'm going to have a meeting the next day. Take it off my list. It could be that I need to create my team meeting agenda because we're having a meeting later in the week. Do that in the office, not in the doctor's office. Take it off my list, right? I can choose. These are all choices you have. I could choose to do that, or I could choose to go to the doctor's office and read one of the magazines that's sitting there. But by doing that, but having that choice and choosing the magazine, I'm now going back home after the doctor's office, looking at my to-do list saying, "Oh my gosh, now when am I going to get this done?" Right? We have the ability to use our time wisely. When you're waiting for an airplane, we all know that you get to the airport pretty early. There's a lot of time there where you can bring out your computer, you can get some work done. What I would suggest, though, at any for any of these, is already know what you're going to do. So when you're going to when you know you're going to be at the airport for an hour, look at your to-do list and say, what are the things I'm going to do at the airport? Oh, I'm going to knock off these two things, right? Just don't go there with your whole to-do list. right? Already have in place in your mind, what are you going to do at any of these waiting times? It will make your organization a lot easier. When you're on hold, how many times do you call customer support and they say your waiting time will be 30 minutes? Some people will sit there for 30 minutes listening to the music. Instead, look at your to-do list and say, what can I do for the next 30 minutes to knock something else off my list? Again, use your time wisely. When you're early to something, right? What's great about this is when you're early, sometimes you get there early and it's just because there was less traffic than you thought. The great thing is we can do so much now just from our phone, right? We can check emails, we can reply to emails, we can look at documents, all of those things that are on our to-do list, we can do electronically from the palm of our hand. So when you're early to somewhere, think to yourself, what can I do to knock myself to get something else knocked off my list? Concentrate on the task at hand. Trust me, I know we all have a lot to do. And as you get into the workplace and you continue to move on, there's going to be a lot that you have to do. You have to train yourself. And I've done a really good job of training myself over time to focus only on that specific task that you're working on in that moment. Today, for example, I know that I have other things on my to-do list, but for this time right now, my task is creating this video for you. So I'm 100% focused on that. If you do not train yourself to do this, a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to get distracted and you're not going to do as great as job on the task because your brain is going to be constantly telling you, you got to hurry up. You got to hurry up. You have something else to do. Your brain is already going to be thinking about all those other things you got to do. So really train yourself to concentrate on the task at hand. It means you're going to focus on the goal. You're going to say to yourself, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to focus only on this task. Or for the next 45 minutes, I'm only going to do this one thing that's on my to-do list. You're going to tune out interruptions, which means you're going to create whatever environment is best for you to get something done and stay focused. For me, I like to be in my office without the TV on, without music on, etc. Other people that I know enjoy having like the TV on in the background and it doesn't distract them. Other people I know have like headphones with music playing in it, and that allows them to keep working. They're able to do both at the same time. You need to figure out whatever that ideal space is that allows you to focus on that task at hand. And then share your goals with others, right? Tell people in your office or on your team, I'm going to get this done by Friday. Or, yes, I will do that for you. I'm going to have it done by next Wednesday. By actually sharing it with others, you now have a better chance of completing it because you know that you're being held accountable. You already gave your word that you were going to do it. And when we do that, it allows us to actually be motivated to complete what we said we would complete. Consider your personal prime time. What does this mean? It means, are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? Are you an evening person? When is your brain most on? Because if you start to think about that, and we're all different, what you want to do is you want to focus those to-do list items whenever your prime time is. For example, for me, it's right when I wake up in the morning. I usually wake up at 5:30 a.m. I don't need coffee. I don't need to watch the news. I can go straight to my computer and start on my to-do list, and I'm on. I am focused. I just knock things out. 1, 2, 3. I'm ready to go. In the afternoon time, I kind of want to take a nap or watch TV for half an hour. And in the evening, I want to be in bed by 8:30 p.m. Right? Some of you are not a morning person. If you're not a morning person, don't set up your to-do list that you're getting things done in the morning because you're going to be sluggish. You're not going to do as great as a job as you can do, and you're not going to be as focused, right? Your brain's not going to be in it. Your body's not going to be in it. So think about it. What is your personal prime time? Are you a morning, afternoon, or evening person? Now, there's going to be some things as you start working that you're going to have meetings at specific times. But most of the time, especially when you're working from home, and a lot of jobs are going to be remote, right? You can decide when are you going to work? When are you going to get your stuff done? And when you have that option, choose your prime time as the time where you're going to focus on your to-do list. Because I guarantee you will get a lot more done when when you understand what is your prime time and actually live by that, right? It works well for me, and I know it'll work well for you. Always celebrate success, right? Again, we will not survive by work, 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 work. We all need that break. So what does that mean for you? It could mean food, right? It could be a snack. So as you get through a few of your items on your to-do list, take a breath. Say, you know what? I need a snack. I need something I need something to nourish me, right? To make me feel good, to say, yes, I was able to accomplish that. It could be taking a nap, not a 4-hour nap, but a 30-minute nap. It could be going outside, taking a walk, sitting in the backyard and playing with your dog, right? Whatever little things like that happen for you. It could be watching TV or going to a sporting event, something that allows you to, all of these things allow you to turn your brain off a little bit and focus on something completely different than your to-do list at work. But make sure you take the time to celebrate your success. So in summary, your time management strategies include prioritizing. What are those things that are the most urgent, that are due earliest, and have the highest impact for your team at work? You need to find a way to organize. How are you going to organize your to-do list? Is it going to be on a notebook? Is it going to be on a physical calendar? Is it going to be on a virtual calendar like on your phone? Is it going to be on an app or another tool that you find on your computer? Whatever it is, you need to find a way to document to your to-do list. You're going to learn when to say no. Remember, there's always going to be those things that you have to do because simply your manager says you have to do them or it's part of your job. But there's going to be a lot of things that are optional. And it's okay to say no so you don't feel overwhelmed. Use your waiting time. Look at your list and say, when am I going to have some downtime? Am I going on a trip where I'm going to be at the airport? Do I have a doctor's appointment? Am I going to take the train to work? And when you do that, look at your list and say, what are some things I can get done? Even if it's just one thing that you can knock off your list during that waiting time, that would really help you. Concentrate on the task at hand. Remember to stay focused. We all have a lot to do, but the best thing you can do for yourself is to train yourself to only focus on one thing at a time. People sometimes will say that they're able to do two things at once, that they're multitasking. Our brains do not work that way. Our brains do not work like that. We really can only focus on one thing at a time. So learn to do that and you'll do that task better. Consider your personal prime time. Are you a morning person, afternoon person, or evening person? And fill up your to-do list during that time. You'll work faster, you'll work smarter, you'll get things done better if you focus on that prime time. And always take some time out for yourself to celebrate the success. We all need that break. And I encourage you to celebrate those small successes as you go throughout your day. So I want to thank you. I hope that you've learned some tips and tricks regarding time management and wish you much success as you graduate and get through CSUN so that you can start in your professional careers. Thanks again for joining today.